Every interaction that you get into, the goal should be to add as much value as you possibly can right away. And I take it into everything that I do. If I think about any one moment or any one thing that I've learned, or a single kind of point in time that shifted my mindset and made the biggest difference for me as an entrepreneur, I can point to one time period. It was fall of 2018, and a good friend of mine, mentor of mine, brought me into his office. He's a wealth manager, brought me in to analyze my corporate structure, talk about my taxes, and talk about my public equities. He's a wealth manager. He wanted to manage my public equities. Now he does. He brought me into his office and he sat me down in front of a whiteboard, and I had not hired him yet. I had not engaged him. I had not paid him any money. He was an acquaintance at the time. Now he's a friend and a good friend and mentor of mine. He set me down in his office and he basically just asked me to be, wildly open with him about my financial situation, how much money my businesses make, how much debt I have on my house, my vehicles, inside my business, how much public equity exposure I have, what stocks, how I'm managing my retirement accounts, how I'm, what my tax strategy is for keeping the majority of my money versus paying it to Uncle Sam. And he sat me down and he asked me a bunch of questions, and I think it was 45 minutes, but it went by like this. And I wake up 45 minutes later and all this information is on this whiteboard of my entire tax strategy, my entire plan, my entire tax strategy. And he had basically revolutionized the way I thought about taxes and planning for taxes and investing and planning long-term in my investment strategy. He made probably 5 core recommendations about my company, about the debt that we use, about how I think about leverage, about how I think about risk. And he basically he did a 45-minute consulting package with me in person. I had not yet engaged him. I had not yet paid him. I had not signed on to be his client. And I walked out of there, and at the end, he took a picture. He grabbed my cell phone and he took a picture of it, of the whiteboard with all the notes on it of strategies and things that we should do. And he said, these are the things that you should do, or at least I recommend you reading. If you need help with any of them, let me know. But, you're in a great spot. Congratulations on what you've done. We were finally making a little bit of money in our student storage business. Our self-storage facility was doing well. And I walked out. No bill, no expectation, no anything. And I just couldn't help but think, and I ended up asking him a little while later, I said, Jim, why did you just give me? He's like, do you do that to every client? And they're like, yeah, we do that for every client, or even a potential client. They come in, or we get on a web Zoom call, on a webcam Zoom call, and I ask them to lay out their information. And my goal going into that interaction is to help them as much as I physically can or mentally can. I'm going to help them as much as possible right then. That's what I'm going to do. And I said, how does that work for you? Why would you do that if they could easily take the information and the advice that you gave them and go to somebody else who might be a bit cheaper? Maybe they shop it around. Maybe they do a lot of it on their own. What is in it for you to just open up and share and help them that much without getting paid? Like, why are you not getting paid for this? And he goes, Nick, you're thinking about this all wrong. And this is when he changed my life. He said, you're thinking about this all wrong. He said, yes, they come in, and yes, many of them walk out. I help every single one as much as I possibly can. And yes, it's worth money. I've probably given hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of free consulting in these calls or in these talks, meetings, Zoom conferences, whatever it is. But this is what you don't understand. He's like, in my business, it's a relationship-driven business. It's about trust. It's a people business. So my goal in every single interaction that I have is to add as much value to that person's life in as short amount of time as possible. I don't care what's in it for me. I don't care about the long-term prospects. I don't care about anything in that moment except helping them as much as possible and using everything that I know about equities, about investing, about tax, about trusts, about all the available government programs to tax incentivize wealth building over time. I don't care about hiding any of that. And my goal is to pass it on to people who are in the situation. And people come to him who are about to sell companies. People come to them who are trying to restructure estates. People come to him with really hairy, serious problems They sit down in front of him and he pounds out and helps them as much as physically possible. And he says, Nick, I do that because they walk out of there knowing that I'm legit. They walk out of there knowing, A, they're in a better situation, so I feel better about that, but B, they know that I'm legit. And the next time a problem comes, they may, most of the time, they actually do. They call me up and set up another meeting and engage me. That's when they start to pay me. But he's like, more often than not, Nick, 75% of the time, right there at the end of that meeting, that person hires me. We are then partners. I'm managing their money, or I am helping them navigate any of the situations that they're in, and it works out really well. And I said, what do you mean? Like they don't go do it themselves? They don't go try to do it cheaper? They don't use those things and avoid you? And he's like, Nick, what happens when you add a ton of value to somebody's life is they start to trust you as a person, and that comes right back and helps me over time. And I just couldn't believe it. I said, why would anybody who's as smart as this guy, with as much experience as this guy, owns a company making millions of dollars a year, why would he spend all of his time helping these people that he doesn't know if he's going to get anything back out of it? And he said, sure, sometimes people leave and I never hear from them again. But more often than not, they become my clients. And he said, that's my way of selling, is to add as much value right away as I possibly can. And he said, try it, Nick, try it. Next time you go out, you're talking to an investor, you're talking to a storage owner, you're doing whatever it is that you're trying, whoever it is you might be trying to sell, try to show up to that conversation, not withholding information. And this is what I had been doing before this, before I realized that this is how it should work. I would try to hold back information that I knew was really valuable. I would try to say, maybe I'm not going to tell them about X, Y, Z. Maybe I'm not going to tell them about all these different things that they could do. Maybe I'm not going to give them all my expertise right off the bat because that's pretty darn valuable. They either need to pay me for consulting or, it's better off if I just know this information and they don't. So I went out and I said, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to add as much value in every single interaction as I possibly can. And a couple of weeks later, it was time for me to make my, quarterly phone calls to the 20 self-storage facility owners that I call to try to get them to sell me their properties. And I went in with the same mindset of, okay, I'm going to try to help this person as much as possible, even though it might not benefit me. One of the first 5 calls on the first day, I talked to a lady whose husband had just passed away, and she wanted to sell her facility. It was the first real lead that I had. And I said, look, I may or may not be the best buyer for your property. I'll admit, we're paying good money right now. We're buying storage quickly. I did my normal pitch, but then I said, look, if you want to maximize value, I'll tell you right now that it's not worth as much as it could be to me. If you want to maximize the value of your storage facility, and again, I'm calling to try to buy the building. I want to buy the building to put it into the Bolt Storage portfolio and to grow my business. If you want to sell for the most amount of prices, this is exactly what I would do. This is exactly how I would do things if I were to take over your asset. See this little half acre over here to the left? I would build out this storage right now. I'd start a construction project right away. All the other 265 tenants in your property, I would raise their rents 25%. You're undercharging them. I would raise them 25% on day one. And what I think you can do over time, and I would also install a fence and a gate. I'd put about $25,000 in a fence and a gate all the way around your property. I'd use some software. This is the software that I would use. It's Easy Storage Solutions. And then I would operate the business for another 6 months. And what you'll probably do is raise revenue from 25 to 35 grand a month. And instead of being able to pay you $2 million, I'd be able to pay you $3 million for your property. And this person's like, oh my gosh, you're legit? You're serious? And they said, I want to sell to you. They said it right then. I want to sell to you. Can you make me a good offer? I want you to do those things to my business. I want you to make it better. And I want to sell. That was our 4th acquisition. We bought it. And sure enough, it went from doing $24,000 a month to now doing $35,000 a month. The market got hotter. It's actually worth about $4 million now. We paid about $2.2 million. And since that time, I have basically taken that mindset of radical open-mindedness, add value first. And this is the principle. Add value first. Every interaction that you get into, the goal should be to add as much value as you possibly can right away. And I take it into everything that I do. And another very radical example of this is what's happened to my personal brand, SoBe. If you're listening to the Sweaty Startup and you're one of the early listeners, I launched this in December of 2019. We've been at it for going on 3 years, I guess. 3 years we've been doing this Sweaty Startup podcast. And I went into that interaction with the goal of being radically open-minded, sharing all my secrets, opening up about how we do business, opening up about how my business works, all of my strategies. And at first, my partner, Dan, who you've met on this podcast several times, at first he was very hesitant. He was very apprehensive. He was very unsure. Nick, why? Why are you sharing everything that we do? You're going to breed competitors. And I still get it all the time. Nick, why do you do what you do? Why do you share everything that you know? You're breeding competitors. That's all you're doing. And I said, just trust me. I'm going to enact this add value first mantra into my personal brand. I'm going to see what happens. And sure enough, my network exploded. Turned out that nobody really did want to do the work necessary to succeed in self-storage. The majority of people don't really want to do the work to succeed in small business. And if you really think about it in the grand scheme of things, there are millions and millions of pieces of property, of commercial real estate assets in the United States. There are 50,000 self-storage facilities. I've already bought, we're going to own 40 of them by the end of the year. I've already bought enough of them to where I never have to work another day in my life. I'm financially set. And so be it if we have a competitor that outbids us on one property in one place at one time. And what happened was the opposite, right? We didn't breed competitors. Maybe we have, I don't know. I've learned a ton about myself, about business. I've had my network absolutely explode. I know people now that have invested with us. We have over 800 people on our investor list, accredited investors, and 53 of them just joined us for a deal in Ohio that we filled over $3 million in about a day and a half. We subscribed it. My entire world has changed since I adopted the add value first mantra to everything that I do. So now every interaction that I go into could be with a competitor, could be with a stranger, could be with somebody that I'm negotiating against. My goal is to add as much value to that person's life as I possibly can. And what actually ends up happening is I gain trust. They realize I'm a decent person. They realize that I don't have a scarcity mindset. They realize that they can win and I can win. Every negotiation is not a winner and a loser. Every negotiation literally can be a win-win situation for everybody involved. And if you're open and you share and you say what you have to say, your entire world opens up. So I am very thankful for my mentor and friend who recommended that shift of mindset of, hey, I'm going to go into especially a sales situation, especially if I'm selling digital products, information. I mean, look, guys, I give away everything I know about self-storage, small business, real estate. I give it away all for free. It's all over the place, right? It's on Twitter. It's on this podcast. And then I packaged it and organized it and put everything that I know about real estate into a real estate masterclass. And I priced it at $2,500, and I sold over $300,000 worth of them the very first weekend that I released it. Does that make any sense? I give away all the information for free, simply organize it, and then I have $300,000 of digital media sales in one weekend. It's crazy, right? It's crazy. So how do we think about this? How do you apply it to your life? That's up to you. I don't know what situation you're in. I don't know what you're selling. I don't know who you're interacting with. But I'll tell you that if you're uncomfortable and try to go out of your way to give people advice and help, you will gain. You will gain. Your network will grow. People will trust you. You'll make more money. You'll be able to raise your prices, and everybody will win. This episode of Sweaty Startup is brought to you by LaunchKits. Visit launchkits.com/sweaty for $50 off a $750 website. So for $700, and they actually turn it around in 7 days as well. So for $700, you get an SEO, search engine optimized website. You get G Suite integration with email and Google My Business optimization, and you get a beautiful website. Visit boltstorage.com. That's my website. Justin and his team built it. They've built over 100 websites for folks who listen to this show. And guys, it's as good as it gets. If you need to get found online, visit launchkits.com/sweaty today.